like to thank everybody for tuning in tonight to Life Sciences of Washington, Health at its Best, and natures-v.com. Tonight we're here to discuss the consequences of not taking Western medicine out of our medicine cabinets with Dr. Patrice Muhammad and biomedical research scientist and engineer Victor Muhammad and myself, Eric Muhammad of Nature's V. We thank you for tuning in. Please excuse the technical difficulties. We do our best to be on time, but technical difficulties do take place. So we want to get right into the program because we want to respect your time. So I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Victor Muhammad, who wanted to discuss with our viewers Western medicine and what is caused as it relates to health and the consequences of us taking them in this day and time. So thank you, Mr. Victor Muhammad, for coming to us today, all the way from the other side of the world. We thank you very much. And do you see Victor anymore? He fell off, right?
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's, well, with that, hopefully he'll log back in. We're going to go over to Dr. Patrice Muhammad, who's out of Chicago, Illinois, and has her office practice at Health at its Best on Stony Island in Chicago, Illinois. Thank you for coming on tonight, Dr. Patrice Muhammad. And can you present to us what your findings are as it relates to the latest group of pharmaceutical medicines that are causing great side effects, and even beyond the side effects that are listed, side effects that no one thought that they would ever get from these pharmaceutical drugs?
Well, yes, sir. Thank everyone for joining us. This is the first of our weekly Thursday evening health topics. They will be very informative, very interesting for discussion. We'll have the latest information that's available to us to date, and we look forward to assisting anyone who needs assistance with any medical issues or topics that we discuss. I wanted to bring to everyone's attention, I'm sure that most of our viewers have information on the recall of metformin. The recall of losartan, which is considered, it's called an ARB. It's a angiotensin II receptor blocker, and it is a medication used for congestive heart failure and to lower blood pressure. It is used for gastroesophageal reflux and heartburn. So right now, there are 3 drugs in particular that I just mentioned, the most recent. And with that, I'll just go into a little bit about metformin. The FDA has stated that metformin, there's a risk of there being a cancer-causing substance in the category of nitrosamide. Nitrosamides are, they are toxic. They what they call genotoxic, meaning they actually are toxic substances to genetic material in our cells. And they are known to, and they say most nitrosamides actually can cause cancer. They have cancer-causing abilities or properties in them. And right now, they're saying that metformin, which is very widely used for diabetes, and mainly because of its ability to lower the body's manufacture of sugar, of blood sugar, increased blood sugar through the liver. And it makes those muscle cells more it makes them more open to receive insulin. Okay. So it makes them, I don't want to say resistant. It makes them more pliable, I should say, to receive insulin in the muscle cells. And so the importance of metformin in particular being looked at is it's pretty unique in its abilities. And with the other class of drugs that I mentioned, there are other drugs within those classes that can be used. With metformin, it's stated that the United States does not currently, there's no current recall on the U.S. market of metformin, but some of the other countries have recalls. In particular, because those levels, there's a certain level that they tolerate or that they say is acceptable. Those acceptable levels of the nitrosamines rather. They, in other countries, they're acceptable because some of the other countries' food and water supply already have those particular levels in them. So if the medications have those levels, as long as it doesn't go above the levels that are already naturally present in the environment in those other countries, they're not recalling those medicines. However,
what are those, excuse me, I'm sorry, Dr. Patrice, but what are those levels that you're speaking of, just to give our viewers some understanding of what you're talking about?
Oh, the levels is 94 nanograms. 94 nanograms is the level that the FDA uses.
That's the acceptable level of this
nitrosamines, yes. Yes.
What is the name of it again?
Nitrosamines or nitrosamines. Yes. So 94 nanograms are the acceptable level that the FDA uses.
So even though it's a carcinogen, there's an acceptable level of this carcinogen in the actual FDA approved pharmaceutical medicine for our bodies. Is there any positive health that comes from this carcinogen being in the pharmaceutical medicine?
No, I wouldn't word it like that to say it's a positive health. What I mentioned was metformin has a unique property.
Okay.
So unless that unique property, we do a benefit to risk ratio. If the benefit of that level is greater than the risk of a toxin or of a contaminant, then they will use it. But of course, if the contaminant of the toxic level exceeds the benefit of a particular agent or medication, then it should not be used. And so the FDA right now is saying that the U.S. supply has not been identified to include levels that exceed those the acceptable range. However, the studies have not been as robust as they should be. They are in the process of those studies. So the studies are being conducted as we speak. And thus far, they're noting that no increased levels have been identified. But again, we're still in the testing stages of metformin. So they're asking that no one just stop taking it because of the unique property that it has. And I've even had patients on metformin who were very controlled with their diabetes, along with diet and exercise. But it does offer a unique ability to help keep the blood sugar lowered. And these are, again, my patients that are in conventional medical practice, definitely not the patients that I see in my natural health practice at all. conventional medical practice, definitely not the patients that I see in my natural health practice.
I apologize. We're listening on Facebook also to make sure we're broadcasting.
Yes, sir.
So, with all of the current pharmaceutical medicines that are out there, how many of them would you say have come under the risk-reward category as they are taken by their recipients or patients that are given them? Would the side effect be considered a risk-reward type of scenario?
Yes, I would say that it would be. Because again, knowing what I know about chemicals and synthetic substances, if I could avoid them totally, like I do in my natural health practice, I avoid them because I do know that even in the the risk to benefit ratio, as long as that risk to benefit ratio is high, again, stating that the benefit is greater than the risk of the side effects, then, we use those medicines and synthetic chemical preparations to help normalize or stabilize a patient's condition. However, over time, those toxins, those chemicals, those synthetic substances, they really can wreak havoc on your liver and kidneys. And that can cause significant problems after you've been taking these synthetic medicines for years and years and years. And that is part and parcel of what we are presenting this evening, which is when you consistently use synthetic chemical medications to manage high blood pressure or diabetes or congestive heart failure or problems with cholesterol or coronary atherosclerosis, all of those conditions can be managed naturally. It's the point to, I guess it's if the patient is, if they're compliant enough, if they're willing enough to do what needs to be done on a natural basis to manage those conditions, which is make our medicine cabinet, make our kitchen our medicine cabinet, then we can definitely see a decrease in these medical conditions, a decrease in the health and the morbidities, death and illness in our community. But we have to move outside of the conventional way that our conditions are being treated, which is with a pill. Just take a pill and everything will be okay. Well, it's not okay because there are lots of, it's an abundance of side effects that cause problems and issues later in life and actually almost to the point of no return, where your liver has just failed or your kidneys have just failed. The heart just fails. So with these series of health presentations, we hope to capture as many people as possible to go back to true health and healing, which is not by popping a synthetic chemical pill.
That being said, people get on the pharmaceutical method of trying to get over their diabetes, get over their high blood pressure, get over their high cholesterol, all of the issues that they're having. even to the point of that if you have an ache or a pain, you're given what today is known as a pain reliever in a pain reliever. The different types I'm not familiar with, but you have all of these conditions that come from these practices. But this is the norm of Western medicine. What can people do that, they don't want to live in pain, but they don't want to kill themselves either by taking the prescribed drug for the pain, not doing anything for the problem? So they've been on this oxycodone or the other type of addictive drugs for so long, and now they want to get off. What methodology would you suggest to them, and why would you tell them that they need to get off, being that they have no more pain, but what is it doing to their body physically that will be far worse than the pain later?
Well, I just mentioned in particular, it destroys major organs for life. You can't live without a liver. You can't live without kidneys unless you're having dialysis, and then your days are numbered with that. You can't live without a heart. You can't live without lungs, again, unless you're doing transplantation of these organs. So simply put, when you continue to take those synthetic chemicals, whether it's an opioid for pain medicine, whether it, ibuprofen and Tylenol, they warn you about that. Just basic, what we thought was basic Tylenol and ibuprofen can destroy your kidney and liver, your kidneys and liver. So those are very serious issues that we should consider. But I do understand about pain management. So let's go to that. Let's go to the root of what your pain is. Why do you have pain? Is it due to back pain, due to prolapsed or is it prolapsed disc, lumbar disc? Is it herniated disc? Is it, do you have a fracture? Did you have a knee replacement? If those things are causing pain, there are other ways that you can help control pain. Number one, there are natural pain medications. Well, there's not medication. I misspoke. They're natural pain supplements and herbals that are very effective with pain management. You have CBD, not CBD that has an increased THC, which is the marijuana. You get the euphoric feeling for that, smoking, something. And I have my marijuana card. No, I'm not talking about that. You're trading one synthetic chemical problem for another. I'm speaking of CBD that is more on the hemp, the cannabinoid side, which is minimally enhanced with any THC. We're talking 0.03% of THC or 0.3%, very, very minimal amount. And that's just a natural, it's naturally occurring, but very amount of the THC component. We're talking about meditation, yoga. We're talking about addressing some of the weight problems that causes those other conditions on joints. So it's multifaceted. There are many ways that we can control pain naturally. However, the issue that I come across all the time when I'm trying to cause a person to come off of the synthetic medications, the chemical medications that can destroy health, and to use something more natural, even certain foods that I know to help, we come into the issue of financial difficulty. Because, of course, if you have any state aid, any federal aid like Medicare and Medicaid, those medications are covered. They're pretty much paid for. Even if you have a copay, those copays would be less than eating right, getting the herbal supplements or whole food supplementation, going to a yoga class, going to maybe a chiropractor or a naturopath to help with those issues. So those are out-of-pocket expenses because none of those agencies, Medicare, Medicaid, will, on a very low end, if at all, they will not pay to reimburse those true doctors that help control pain. They won't pay for those, but they'll pay for you to have a synthetic chemical and for something that can potentially cause you an addiction that you will constantly need that and lean towards that for your pain relief. So that's the vicious cycle that we're in, unfortunately.
With the supplement that we have and we've been promoting for some time now, we found the efficacy to be very high with it, with people who have the sicknesses that we're speaking of, high blood pressure, diabetes, coronary diseases, and other issues. Do you find that the recipients have a difficulty putting down the pharmaceutical treatments that they've had and starting on the supplement? Or do you find that they're ready to get off of it because of what we're speaking of today as it relates to the side effects?
Well, I find that for those that step up to the plate and really put their own health in their hands, they have had no problems at all using the supplement Immune Boost. None whatsoever. And then that gets to the heart of the medical problem. It gets to the heart of the issue. If it's autoimmune, if it's viral, it gets to the heart of that. It helps to improve and reverse some of those harmful side effects that come along with pain, because most autoimmune processes come with pain, like lupus, multiple sclerosis, psoriatic arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. Those conditions are painful. And when the supplement of Immune Boost is used, it relieves the pain and it addresses the root cause of the problem. However, again, you're talking about personal expense. And when you're speaking to personal expense in our communities, that becomes a little tricky on how we're going to maneuver this personal expense versus food on the table. But again, if you're taking control of your own health, as we do have patients who they have been very successful with the supplements.
Well, I see that we have Mr. Victor Muhammad back. We thank him for tuning in. It's the middle of the night where he is, and I'm quite sure the technical difficulties that he suffered from at that point in time were something that he couldn't get past. Just to bring you up to speed, Victor, Dr. Patrice Muhammad has been giving us an overview of some of the side effects and metformin. How do you pronounce that correctly?
Metformin.
Metformin, specifically. I was leading into Mr. Victor Muhammad when we had technical difficulties, and I wanted to ask him, when you decided for us to have this conversation as it related to pharmaceutical drugs and the cause of Western medicine, what was the message you wanted to get to our viewers as it relates to that?
Thank you for being patient. The general message that was the catalyst behind this discussion was, whenever a vacuum occurs in nature, it never lasts for a long time because something always fills it. And so as a result, today there is a vacuum in the knowledge base of the people of the earth when it comes to every field of human endeavor. One of those fields of human endeavor includes healthcare, proper nutrition, diet. And what we found in the 31 years that I've been involved in biomedical research and the 37 years that I've been involved in agricultural research is that there is a gross vacuum, a hole in the understanding of the people of the earth, particularly the American population, when it comes to medicine. And what we found, when I say we, people in the medical sciences, not so much from the clinician standpoint, but from the research point of view, is that the amount of damage that's done to the body of a human who has taken prescription medication do not realize the amount of damage that is done to their bodies by taking medication. And when a person has taken on the task that the three of us have assumed, by the time people make the decision or their decisions are driven, their decisions drive them to contact us because for whatever reason they have lost interest in medicine, then there is so much damage that the medicine has done to their bodies that it's almost nothing is impossible. So as long as the person has a pulse and they're carrying on respiration, then there is an opportunity to help them. But the medicine generally has done so much damage to their bodies that almost in many cases, very little can be done because of the level of toxicity of pretty much all medications. And so we decided that if we can reach people in their teens or early 20s, before they're placed on diabetes medicine around 35, 40 years of age, high blood pressure, same age, and many other medications, if we can reach them and begin to educate them at this juncture in their lives before these medications have destroyed their soft tissue organs, mainly the liver, the kidneys, organs like that, then we might be able to help them. By the time they reach us, we might be able to help them and prevent some of the catastrophic effects of medication and the problems caused by their medication. So that was the catalyst behind this discussion, because no change comes without a human being being involved. And we all say that we want better health, but how do we get it? If the doctors themselves are dying as fast or faster than their patients, then what does that say about the practice of medicine? If your doctor doesn't last any longer than you do, then maybe that's not a good individual to whom you should be listening. And so we have been given knowledge. Well, no one can give you knowledge. Let me correct myself. We've been given information that is critical. And because we listened to that information and allowed it to become a part of our psyche, then it became knowledge. And with the knowledge that we've been given, For 24 years now, we've been helping people to improve their health. And so tonight or today, we wanted to bring it in a public forum and began to talk with you about changing some of the habits that you have with regard to medication and your diet so that we can begin today to help you to improve your diet and help your body so that when you do make the decision to come to us for help, then, you don't need an organ transplant before we can begin to help you. So, Mr. Muhammad, that's the basic philosophy behind the driving force that brought us into this discussion.
Dr. Patrice Muhammad, just so Mr. Victor Muhammad didn't get a chance to hear some of the information you presented, and just for continuity's sake, can you go back over that? We lost Mr. Muhammad's video again, but hopefully he can hear us.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Sure.
You were speaking to metformin?
Metformin, yes.
Metformin.
Basically, I was mentioning metformin and some of the other angiotensin II receptor blockers that have been recalled in recent time. The ARBs, they call them, were recalled starting in December 2018. And in particular, losartan potassium, as well as losartan hydrochlorothiazide combination. And then I mentioned ranitidine use, which is Zantac, used for gastroesophageal reflux disease and heartburn. And metformin, of course. And metformin, it was being discussed that metformin, because of its unique property of lowering blood sugar or the amount of sugar produced in the liver, which is called gluconeogenesis, and its ability to increase sensitivity. That was the word I was looking for earlier. It increases the sensitivity of insulin in muscle cells. So it has been shown that there are some countries that have higher than 94 nanograms of the nitrosamines, which are genotoxic, toxic to the genetic material in cells. And most of the class of the substances of nitrosamines are cancer causing. And that's what they found in some of the medications of metformin recently. In other countries, quote unquote, they are not finding those same levels in the US. So they're not concerned right now with the recall in the US. However, it's because they don't know the levels that exist in all of the US formulations of metformin. They're currently testing those levels now. Other countries that did not know whether their metformin formulations contain that level or not, they're just recalling the medication. The FDA also makes note that if with those levels of nitrosamines that are adequate, they have an adequate acceptable level below 94 nanograms. And it's been noted by the FDA that some of the countries, the environment of some of those countries actually have a naturally occurring amount of nitrosamines in the food and water. So they weren't as concerned with the amount in those particular countries. So, again, they want to sound the alarm, but not necessarily on the U.S.'s production of the formulation of metformin. And they are stating to proceed with caution to stop it, just to stop the drug. And I actually happen to agree with that to some degree, because when you
hold on, there you go, Sister Patrice. I don't know.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Here we are. When you stop taking a medication that your body has become quite accustomed to, it can cause a rebound effect, which means it can cause the body to go into like a semi-withdrawal and actually cause the problem to be much more pronounced and significant than what the medication was taken for. For instance, there are medications, specialized medications called beta blockers. And if you stop taking those, just stop and abruptly, it can actually cause the rebound effect and cause the heart to speed up tremendously. So even though you do have that effect with most chemical compounds of medications, that does not mean that you cannot be safely weaned off that medication. And I would happen to say, over 25 years that I've been practicing medicine, there are very few medications, if any, when I really, really think about it, that I wouldn't feel confident in weaning a person from if they were motivated enough, if they were compliant enough to follow the plan given, and they would definitely save a lot of, I would say, a lot of cellular function. They would save a lot of harm and danger to those soft tissue organs, as Mr. Muhammad mentioned, with the kidneys and liver, which are crucial for anyone to survive. And so those were the medications that I mentioned and the current recalls. And in particular, the other medications that I mentioned outside of metformin, there are other drugs, I want to say, within that same class that could be switched off to. They can use other ones in that class. However, I would have a lot of caution to say if we should use any of those drugs in that class. If they have detected some toxins or contaminants that can be carcinogenic, I would say we need to take a long look at more of the drugs in that class that may also contain those carcinogenic.
Thank you, Dr. Patrice Muhammad. Mr. Victor Muhammad, can you address the phenomenon of why these pharmaceutical drugs all seem to lead to, specifically kidney failure, across the board in the African American or Native American or Mesoamerican or Mexican American communities? Why do we see this proliferation as it relates to these communities more than anybody else taking pharmaceutical drugs? I know we've had offline conversations about it, so I wanted you to share with our viewers that since we're talking about Western medicine.
The actual fact behind this phenomenon is complex. and trying to address it in the amount of time that we have is not pragmatic. What I will say is that there is a movement which no reasonable person can deny to affect the Earth's population by at least half. There was a meeting that took place by former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger and a man named Zbigniew Brzezinski, where they discussed reducing the Earth's population at that time by one half because they believed that the Earth was overpopulated. There is a former military officer who is no longer in his post from South Africa. And he reported during apartheid, or shortly thereafter, there was a movement by the South African government when it was under the control of the Afrikaans, that they were instructed to inoculate Black South Africans with the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV. And he went public with this information. And when the reporter asked him, why did you all do that? His response was, we believed that they would take our country from us, and we wanted to reduce their numbers and control their numbers. Well, in America, there is no one who is above 20 years of age who has not heard of the Tuskegee experiment. There is no one who is a decent student of history, American history, who has not heard of the so-called American Indians being given blankets laced with smallpox to reduce their numbers, and then giving them alcohol in addition to the smallpox-laden blankets. And so the list just goes on and on and on and on. And it became very unpopular in America to just shoot down Black people in the street or hang them. There was too much money being lost in lawsuits when they were being shot or when we were being shot by police or whomsoever, and things like that. So the decision was made to begin inoculating Black people and Mexicans and so-called indigenous Americans. And this way you get the medical profession or the medical society gets the opportunity to make money from this population, because you either have Medicare, Medicaid, or you have good insurance from your job. And so as a result, when Black people generally turn 30 years of age, they're diagnosed with diabetes. And the insulin, at least 20 years ago when I was still studying it, the insulin was being extracted from the carcasses of pigs and from the islets of Langerhans in the pig carcass. And this is the insulin that was being purified and then placed in bottles and sold to our people to take who had diabetes, who had been diagnosed with diabetes, instead of telling the people to reduce the amount of pasta, white rice, white bread, white sugar that they're consuming. It would have been just as easy to tell them to do that as it is to place them on insulin. So as a result, after about 2 years of being on this porcine insulin, porcine is the family name for the pig. After being on this insulin for about 2 years, it's very well known by the medical world, the medical community, that this exogenous insulin is going to destroy the kidneys in the human. And so after about 2 years, 3 years of being on this insulin, then your doctor tells you that you need to go on dialysis because your kidneys are failing. So when you visit the dialysis clinics around the country, I think that, well, the ones that I visited, let me speak on the ones that I visited from Florida, Mississippi, Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, and so forth and so on. Each one of them that I visited, 100% of all the people in the clinics were Black people. And that's not an error, that's not a mistake. And so after being on dialysis for 2 years, 3 years, that individual will generally end up with a stroke. Excuse me. And because that's part of the process. Then after, if the stroke does not immediately kill you, generally about 2 years after you've had the stroke, then you die. And so each of these individuals in the individual practices has made money from you. Your clinician, the pharmacist, the dialysis person, then the neurosurgeon or the neurospecialist. Once you have the stroke, then the mortician, then the guy that sells the caskets, the grave digger, and then the guy that manages the cemetery every month. All of these people have made money from you because, you know, you're really not worth anything to most of the people that run the world. You're not worth anything. And so what we're trying to do, So what we're doing is offering you an option that you don't have to go this route because diabetes can easily be controlled. And so can any other disease that is being called a disease. So, Mr. Muhammad, these are the kinds of facts, and these are the kinds of simplicity, the kind of simplistic facts that the American public and the world need to be given so that the world and the American public can begin to make different decisions that lead toward better health and not toward the more. Because when you start to take on medication and drugs, then you are going toward the morgue. There is no question about it. It's just a matter of time. And so what we want to do is offer you options that if you listen, not pick and choose the parts of what Dr. Patrice wants to advise you to do. If you listen and do what you are advised to do, then you will go toward better health. That's the point, Mr. Muhammad.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Dr. Patrice Muhammad, can you give us your thoughts on what Mr. Victor Muhammad has just expressed to us as it relates to the environment that we're speaking of, dealing with Western medicine and its deleterious effect it's having on us as a people, and why the people are, what they need to do at this point in time to better their health?
Well, first off, I would like to bear witness to what Mr. Muhammad just stated. Everything that he has just stated can be proven in no limit of time. There is evidence in writing that anyone can go and research and find it, and it's not far to find it. Number one, when he stated all the facts of the plan to decrease the population by half and the ways in which they put forth to do that. Number one, when you discuss ways of how we can improve health, the number one way is to first say within yourself, I want to improve my health. Because we could give the best advice among all that give advice about health and healing, and the best nutrition and what we can do to sustain life and lengthen our lives. However, inside our own people, our own communities, and other communities, just the human family, you have to say within yourself, I want to improve my health, and I'm going to do what's best, what I'm advised to do to improve my health. Number one. Once that decision has been made, the rest, not to say it's super easy or not to say that you won't have difficulty, but after difficulty comes ease. So after you've applied yourself, after you've decided that you're going to apply yourself and have better health, live longer, you want to live longer, then you have the option of calling Health at its Best for some guidance and advice that I look forward to giving, that I love to give. You can seek out a natural health provider in your area, if that's what you choose to do. But you must seek out someone who is knowledgeable, someone who is, someone who knows about true health and healing. And once you do that and follow the path, you'll be on your way. I look forward to assisting anyone who would like to contact us at Health at its Best. Please reach out. We will contact you and look forward to assisting. We're at healthatitsbest1@gmail.com. Also, you can call us at 773-234-3319, and we will look forward to helping you. That is our goal. That is our mission. And we plan to live that out to the best of our ability.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. We've come up on our hour now, even though we've had technical difficulties, and we would like to give our last closing remarks. I'll give the floor now to Mr. Victor Muhammad with the message he would like to leave our viewers with this evening, and then I'll come to you, Dr. Patrice Muhammad. And if there's anything that Mr. Muhammad needs to conclude with on that, then we'll close with giving everybody our contact information so they can get to the health at its best through what we're offering them today. So any closing comments, Mr. Victor Muhammad?
Yes, sir. Thank you. The primary and fundamental point that we will make to everyone is I can speak on behalf of the three individuals in this program who is available on this program now, Mr. Eric Muhammad, Dr. Patrice Muhammad, and Victor Muhammad, myself. I can speak on the process, the advice, the professionalism, the knowledge base, the training, the requisite training, those principles of health, the reparatory practices that with which we can advise you. I can speak and I can advise you on contacting the three of us. Now, if you select or choose to contact another provider who may be involved in natural health and whatnot, I don't spend time speaking against other people. That's not necessary. And I won't start. But what I will say is that I can only advise you on what we offer you.
Right.
And I can stand behind with confidence and clarity. If you contact one of the three of us, then I can stand behind that advice and we can help to manage any information or advice that we give to you. I am familiar with many of the practices done by others. I do not comment on that. And even if you ask me, I won't comment on what someone else is doing because, you know, that's their practice. And it's unstatesmanlike for me to speak negative of what someone else is doing. Because I even confess that there are some properties in medicine that is beneficial. However, the caveat with medicine for which you have to be aware is that you have to weigh the consequences that you're going to get. They call those side effects. The consequences that you're going to get by taking the medication, and you have to sit down at your desk and take out a pencil and do some mathematics. And you have to ask yourself, will the benefit I receive from taking this medicine outweigh the consequences, or you can put in parentheses, side effects? And that's a decision that you have to make. We cannot make that decision for you. And so my point of clarity is, if you contact us, then Victor Muhammad, Eric Muhammad, Dr. Patrice Muhammad, we can stand behind what we advise you to do. If you elect, which is your right, to go to someone else, we have nothing to do with that. Whatever they advise you to do, if they are a naturopath or if they send up smoke signals, if they have you dancing around a fire or doing a rain dance, that's between you and them. We cannot comment on that. We have nothing to do with that. But I can say to you categorically, if you contact us, we can stand behind every piece of advice that we give to you. That is the point that I wanted to make. And so when I read the news at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm seeing the gross amount of mental health issues that are taking place, not just in America, but across the world, but mostly in America. And I don't see people addressing these issues because I'm not even sure people realize that these are mental health issues. You see, and so you need to contact us because we understand that these are mental health issues that you're dealing with. So by contacting us, we can help you with these things. So those are the points that I wanted to make, Mr. Muhammad. And I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad, and for that very timely advice. I want to say to our viewers that every day you see on the television the side effects and the other issues that people are suffering from by taking pharmaceutical medicine approved by the FDA. No malice intended toward that, but the evidence speaks for itself. The amount of lawsuits that are going on daily that you can go and sue and get involved in these class action lawsuits after you've taken this medicine that you've been prescribed by your Western doctor to take. And most of the side effects that you are suffering from, they tell you that you're going to suffer from. And then, the ratio of benefit to risk that Dr. Patrice Muhammad was speaking of, you get involved in your life. What Dr. Patrice has to offer, what we have to offer at Nature's V, what biomedical research scientist Victor Muhammad has to offer to us in the supplement is that we have a way to heal without harm. And you, as those who are being affected, have an opportunity to change the direction of your own life by accepting that you don't have to be harmed to be healed. I want to let Dr. Muhammad have some closing comments also, but I want our viewerships to take mind of that and know that you know what you're suffering from. You know that if you're getting better or not. You know that your condition is deteriorating as you're taking these pharmaceuticals. So it's your choice. You have to choose that you want to get better. And just because you have insurance is paying for it, you have to make a choice. I'll say that. Dr. Muhammad, do you have any closing remarks?
The only closing remark that I have is, number one, I thank Mr. Victor Muhammad and yourself, Mr. Eric Muhammad, for your closing comments, because they were absolutely on point and extremely good closing comments. I would only leave our viewers with this. God gave us the most precious gift on the planet Earth, and that is our lives. We need to look at how do we care for the most precious gift that God has given us. How do we care for it? That's all I'll leave you with.
Thank you, Dr. Patrice Muhammad. Thank you, Mr. Victor Muhammad. I want to close with this comment. I was having a conversation with Mr. Victor Muhammad, and I thanked him one day for the knowledge that he had given me in bringing me to understand what I understand of health and wellness and how the body can be healed naturally. And I thanked him for this knowledge, and I'm going to turn the final comment over to him so he can explain again the difference between information and knowledge, and what we have to do is come to understand that so we can better our health. Would you mind giving that to our viewers as we close, Mr. Victor Muhammad?
Not at all. May God direct my mouth. One of the things that the world has to understand is in the latter part of the 19th century, a group of well-financed individuals took over all of the medical schools in the U.S. and they made medicine an elite occupation that could only be afforded by the rich and the wealthy. It wasn't until the 40s and 50s that a normal person could afford to go to med school. during the time when Black people were in control of the country that is now called Egypt. That's when it was known as Kemet. A boy would go into his education at the age of 9, and he would be there for 41 years studying. He studied every form of human endeavor. When he finished those 41 years of school, he was called a priest. And when he finished his education, he was sent out into the world to educate the rest of the population because he was truly educated. Educate comes from the Greek word educare, which means to extract from. And you all know doggone well, when we go to private school, public school, colleges, universities, and any other kind of school, we are not educated. Monday through Thursday, the professor or the teacher writes stuff on the board. You and I copy it down in our notebook. Then on Friday, we regurgitate what we memorized back in the form of what is called a test or quiz. We haven't extracted anything. We went home and we read it over and over until we memorized it. And then we got an A on our test. So we actually, by the time we graduate with a PhD, if you go around people with PhDs and master's degrees like me and people like that, we have a lot of information and we sound very smart because we're regurgitating what we have memorized all those years. But if you ask us to explain something or deduce something, we can't do it. We can regurgitate it now, and we sound intelligent. We sound very smart. But if we were so intelligent or so smart, then why can't we solve the basic medical problems that everybody is suffering from? So the difference, Mr. Muhammad, is information is what we get in the educational system. We get plenty of information. It becomes knowledge when you take that information, process it, turn it into a method by which it can generate some good, some benefit, a product. It has what you call utility, meaning you can do something with it. It is only knowledge when you can take that information and do something with it. Otherwise, it's just information. So when I self-corrected myself earlier tonight, when I said no one can give you knowledge, no one can give you knowledge. A person can give you information. It is your application of that information that turns it into knowledge. So the average person who has gone to college, I know you all going to be mad at me, but the objective here is to improve society. And if America and the world has to be better, and it has to be because the status quo is not acceptable any longer, then somebody has to be strong enough and formidable enough to tell us the truth about ourselves. And those like myself who have gone to college, we are loaded down with a lot of information. College people generally don't generate anything, don't produce anything except paper. The people, the so-called blue-collar people, these are the individuals that generate products, goods, and services. These are the people that start businesses. Blue-collar people don't go to college except to tell you how they became wealthy and rich and offer you and me a job. That's because they have knowledge. We have a lot of information. College people generally have a lot of information and a briefcase full of resumes because generally college people are looking for a job because we only have information. I'm sorry. Mr. Muhammad?
Thank you for that. We'd like to thank our viewers for tuning in tonight with Dr. Patrice Muhammad at Health at Its Best, biomedical research and engineer, developer of the supplement, Victor Muhammad, and myself, Eric Muhammad of Nature's V. You can go to Dr. Patrice, can you give them your website information?
Yes, sir. It's www.healthatitsbest.net.
And you can reach myself and Mr. Victor Muhammad at Nature's, www.natures, Natures, dash the letter V as in Victor.com for any other inquiries that you have with regards to information here. You can go to YouTube under Nature's space V Autoimmune Disease Foundation and look at all the videos that we put up. We thank you for your time tonight. We hope that you forgive us for our technical difficulties, and we'll be back with you next Thursday with another presentation on the best health that we know that we can offer you in the new health paradigm that we are presenting.